Hey guys, it's me, Holly Madison. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're gonna do a little reaction to one of the Pam and Tommy episodes. If you hit the like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And some of you might be wondering, girl, why are you reacting to that? That is out of pocket. But a lot of you guys have been requesting it in the comment section of my other videos because there's a scene where they show a flashback to Pamela testing for Playmate. And a lot of you were asking me, is that really how it goes down? Is that really how a Playmate shoot happens? So obviously I wasn't there when her Playmate shoot happened. I was still like a kid in school, but I know a little bit about how they happened and how they happened back then. So let's get started. I'm just getting ready for the day today. My kids are at school. I just finished working out and gonna go take them to karate after school. But let's get into it. So there's an episode of Pam and Tommy called Pamela in Wonderland, and they flash back to her testing for Playmate. And the first thing I noticed about, well, first of all, before I get started, I want to say that like I'm responding to this based on what I know. I wasn't actually there when her shoot happened, and everything I have to say is like meant to be respectful to all parties involved. So don't go trying to make any drama out of it. Ain't no drama here right now. I'll let you know when there is. So the first thing about the scenes that I noticed that I thought was kind of funny and could have been better was when she's driven up to the Playboy Mansion. Like the house they used looks nothing like the mansion. It's like a red brick house. And that's like my biggest fear when the Down the Rabbit Hole limited series gets made. I hope that they either find a house that looks really similar or get the house or use CGI instead of using a house that looks nothing like it, because people know what the house looks like. Like it was on TV for many years. It's iconic. People know. So having her drive up to a red brick house, I'm just kind of like, I guess we got to suspend disbelief now. My concealer's a mess today, guys. But you know what? It's a kid day. I'm casual, not being too picky about how I look. I'm really just doing lips for this video. I wouldn't usually do lips on a kid day because you gotta put on your mask anyway to go most places. So the next thing I noticed was they have Pamela come test for Playmate and her mom is with her. And it's not like parents were never invited to come up to the mansion for a social event. I met several Playmates parents, but usually for an initial test, they would just fly the candidate out. They wouldn't be able to bring like a boyfriend or a family member or something. So I don't know why that was in there. Like I'm sure Pamela's mom did go to the mansion at some point, but I highly doubt it was for the first test shoot. The next thing I noticed was there was no Marilyn Grabowski. Marilyn Grabowski was the photo editor at the Playboy Studios in LA, and she was very hands-on as far as like getting to know the girls and kind of like ushering them through the experience. And I feel like they show in the show, in Pam and Tommy, they show Pamela just like popping in and all of a sudden there's a photographer and there's like no Marilyn to greet you or, you know, help you feel comfortable or explain like what the process was. And I think Pamela, from what I can tell, was like a special favorite of Marilyn's because I know that Pamela actually shot a cover for Playboy before she was ever even a centerfold. And before she was famous or known for anything else, she did like another cover. And then when she was like the Tool Time girl, like before she was even on Baywatch, they kept asking her back for covers. And obviously like Hef had to approve the covers and everything. But when I see somebody from that era being called back for covers all the time, to me that says that was like Marilyn's favorite. Like Marilyn really saw, not that Hef didn't like her too, but I think Marilyn saw something really special in her and thought she was a great model. And the strangest thing is they had her doing her test shoot like in the Great Hall of the mansion on a bed. And then the photographer gave her some weird speech about how you like don't have to show anything you don't want to, which is like true in that you're not being forced to pose nude if you don't want to. But if you want to be considered for a Playmate, like you have to show what a Playmate would show in the pictorial. So I don't know what that was. But yeah, they had her shooting her test shoot on a bed in the Great Hall of the mansion, and Hef was like peeking over the balcony, which was kind of a creepy look. But that's not how it would have happened, especially back in the day. Like she would have shot her test shoot in the studio. And back in the 90s, Hef was married, and obviously I wasn't around back then, but supposedly there just wasn't much of a social life up there back then. And the Playmates would stay in the guest house on the mansion grounds, much like they would when I lived there, but they weren't really allowed to like come into the house very often. Like I think they could come in for like buffet dinners, or they could like use the gym, or they could like come up to get food, but they weren't really supposed to like socialize. And certainly there would not have been a bed set up in the Great Hall with like a photo shoot going on during that era, because Hef was married and there were like little kids living there and stuff. So that was kind of weird. Things were like a lot more professional in the 90s. This was like, not only was Hef married, but it was like post-AIDS era, like pre-Viagra. So there wasn't a casting couch at that time. So things were more professional than they were some other times. And then somebody was asking in the comments, like, if Pamela really got her boobs done after her Playmate test. And I think I read an interview once where Pamela said she was at the mansion for her test, or her first cover shoot, or whichever it was. And she saw all these pictures of all the women in the gym, and whoever she was down there with, she was talking to, and she's like, oh, really? She's had them done, and she's had them done, and she's had them done. And I guess that was like the inspiration moment. But that's like just according to an interview she did. Again, I'm not claiming to be like firsthand knowledge for any of this because I wasn't there. But yeah, I feel like the whole Playmate test shoot in Pam and Tommy just wasn't that accurate. And I definitely don't think there would have been any like heart-to-heart talk between her and Hef like on her first test shoot out there. Just because based on what I've heard, like his wife like didn't want the Playmates getting really near him or anything. But obviously over the years, like she got to know him and had like her own relationship with him. Not relationship, I don't mean like, but like professional relationship. And I think the show just wanted to like condense that into one experience that the viewer could easily take in. And also like the whole thing where it shows her in her apartment and she like gets the call out of the blue that like Playboy wanted her to come pose. I don't know if that's really how it happened, because I heard she was discovered by a photographer in the Vancouver area named Ken Honey, and he would always scout girls in Vancouver, and he discovered like Dorothy Stratton and other Playmates who had come from Vancouver. So he had spotted her and sent the pictures in. But when I was there, how a Playmate test would work is the woman would be flown out by herself. She'd be picked up at the airport, brought to the house. Somebody would show her around, which when I first moved in, that was a secretary who worked at the house named Charlotte. But then later on, I volunteered to do it just because I wanted to kind of set the scene and, you know, let them know, you know, through meeting me that they had somebody to talk to, so that they wouldn't like, you know, feel pressured to do anything weird, because a lot of that was going on in the early days. And I wanted to kind of preempt that by like stepping in and introducing myself, because that was nothing I was interested in having happen. And then usually the next day they would be driven to the studio. They do their test shoot. If this was a time period when Hef was single, like they would have been invited to go out to the clubs with Hef and his girlfriends, but obviously that wasn't the case during Pamela's era. So she probably just would have like been invited to like come up and see like the movie and eat at the buffet on the weekends. And that was about it. And then they'd go home and find out if they made it or not. And I feel like I've heard stories, I don't know like how long the wait time was for Pamela, obviously, but I've heard stories where people said they tried out for Playmate and they didn't find out for another year that they like didn't make it, which is kind of crazy. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions about Playmate test shoots or whatever. And let me know what kind of video you'd like to see next. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.